Hello friends, I am Amir Anwar Nizami and today we are going to study the laminated composite plate. So let's start. So the definition here, a composite is a term which is used for a material made up of two or more different parts bonded together, and each part may have different mechanical and chemical properties. So to define a composite, we can see that a material made up of two or more different parts bonded together. So the best example we can understand is the reinforced cement concrete. So one part is cement concrete and another part is the steel bars or reinforcement bars. So when we see the individual properties of the reinforcement bars or steel, we know that it is a ductile material, whereas other we can see the cement concrete, which is a brittle material. So when we combine both of them, so when steel bars are confined to the or reinforced in cement concrete, then we see the properties of reinforced cement concrete much different from the plain cement concrete, or the steel bars properties individual and combination are much different. Okay, so here which is mentioned that a composite is a term which is used for a material made up of two or more different parts bonded together, and each part may have different mechanical and chemical properties. So we know that each part of the steel and cement concrete are different, having different mechanical and chemical properties. So to understand this reinforced cement concrete is the best examples to understand. But generally what we are going to study here for the composite materials, that's much different from these RCCs. So now a new material is obtained after the assemblage of the lamina, which provides extremely well performance than that of the individual parts taken separately. So when we use different lamina arrangement, then we get the final plate, so whose properties is much different from the individual one. So applications. So composite materials are ideal for structures that require high strength to weight and stiffness to weight ratios. So where we require the high strength to weight ratios, generally in the aircraft and spacecraft, we want the high strength to weight ratios, means the strength should be much higher than the weight. So low weight, high strength we want, or we can say the high stiffness and low weight should be there. So aircraft and spacecraft are typical weight sensitive structures in which composite materials are cost effective, because if we will reduce the weight of the structure and we get the higher strength, then we reduce the cost, because the fuel will take more cost because to carry the large weight. So if you will reduce the weight, so the force requirement would be less and the cost will reduce. So the lightweight and highly reinforcement ability of the composite makes it extremely useful in mechanical and civil engineering application for retrofitting purposes. So retrofitting, we know that the strengthening of the structures, of the existing structures, generally we say that retrofitting. So sometimes we see that the columns or beams, due to large loads, or with time 10 years or 20 years, 30 years later, the buildings somewhere there is a damage in the columns or beams due to the higher loads. So there we can retrofit, or we can strengthening those existing structures by various using the various polymers, or we can say that the composite polymers. So there we use in the mechanical and civil engineering purposes, the composite plates are used in that. So fiber reinforced polymer plate is one of the example to it, which is used to strengthen the existing concrete members and the replacement of the damaged bridge decks. So here we can see the applications, that here it's a column and the column we can confine with the this black is a fiber reinforced polymer. So when we confine or when we wrap around this column, then what it gives the confinement or confining strength, so that it can carry a lot of loads. And we can see the aeroplane here. So these are also the made of composites, and here in this beam we can see that this black is the fiber reinforced polymers which are used here to carry the more loads on it. So a composite is called a laminated composite. When we say a composite is laminated, so a composite is called a laminated composite when it consists of layers of at least two different materials that are bonded together. So lamination is used to combine the best aspects of the constituent layers in order to achieve a more useful material. So two different materials when combined, so then we can say that it is a laminated composite materials, and those properties of each material should be different there. So the ability to structure and orient the material layers in a prescribed sequence leads to several particularly significant advantages of the composite materials compared with conventional monolithic materials. So the conventional monolithic that we use, the cement concrete structures and different structures. So these structures and the composite materials, there is a much significant difference of the strengths. So the ability to structure and orient the material layers in a prescribed sequence leads to several particular significant advantages. We are having a lot of advantages of using the composite plates, because we can orient as we want the lamina, that where we want the higher strength or what the requirement, so we can make with our requirement. We can just change the orientations and we can get the desired strength. So that's much flexible choice in the composite structures. So the most important among these is the ability to tailor or match the lamina properties and orientations to the prescribed structural loads. As we require the load, we can just change the orientations of the lamina, means individual plates, so we can get the required or desired strength. So we can see the lamina. Lamina, what's the lamina? Lamina and laminate, these two terms are there. So lamina is, if we see, I can show you in a three-dimensional view. Suppose it is a laminated, we are using the term laminated composite plate. Okay, so it must be made of 1, 2, 3, 4, so each lamina here, each plate we have made, this is the 1 lamina, 2 lamina, 3 lamina, 4 lamina, 5 lamina. So it is the lamina 1. First lamina. It may be, the orientation may be like this. This is the fiber direction. And another lamina, laminate 2. Here I will make. the orientation of the fibers may be like this. So it is lamina 2. Okay, so here it is shown that a lamina is there and it is the direction of the fibers. So fibers are oriented in this direction. So we are giving the x1 and y1, x1 in the direction of fibers, small x1. We can just out of the confusion we can make it 1 only. So this one direction is the direction of the fibers, and the direction this 2 is the direction of perpendicular to the direction of the fibers. And here capital X is the direction of the laminate we can see. So lamina and laminate, what? Laminate, when we say, when these individual lamina is structured already combined, then we say that this is X, capital X, and this is capital Y. Means this is the X is the reference axis for this plate, not the lamina, because individual lamina may be oriented. For each lamina, different orientations of the fibers can take place. But the laminate, we can see finally when it is composed and stacked together, then this individual lamina will become a laminated plate. Then the reference axis would be, this would be the capital X axis and this would be the capital Y axis. So here the capital X and capital Y axis is the reference axis or the axis for the laminated plates, and here a small x1, or we can see that 1 and 2 is the axis of the material or fibers. So a laminated composite materials consist of several layers of a composite mixture consisting of matrix and fibers. So we can see that here it is shown that these are the fibers and it is just filled in a matrix. Okay, so this lamina, it is a lamina because it's a single layer, so it is a lamina which is composed of matrix and the fibers. So these are fibers. These are fibers, and in which it is filled, it is the matrix. This is matrix. Okay, just like we can see that the reinforcement bars are filled in the cement concrete. So cement concrete is the matrix and reinforcement steel bars is the fibers. So similarly here, that these are the fibers and it is filled in the matrix. Okay, now when this is the individual lamina, it is a single plate, so it is a lamina, and when it is stacked in the sequence, that we can see here that it is the first plate, and first plate we can see that each lamina is like fibers are oriented in this direction. So it is suppose 1, and then second lamina, the fibers would be in this direction. So if we give this as 1, the fiber axis as 1 in this direction, and in this direction if we give the fiber axis as 2, So here the fiber is oriented in one direction, and here fiber is arranged in the two direction. So if we take the axis as a reference axis for this plate, so combined plate would be so one is in this one direction, and here it is in the two direction, then again it is the one direction. So three lamina is arranged here. So we can say that each lamina is arranged here. It's the 0 degree. We can see that the reference axis and the material axis are coincide, because x axis, which is the plate axis, and the one which is the direction of the fiber, is in the same direction. Then the second material is here, it is the y direction. So this we can see that the fiber axis and this aligned with the y axis with the 2. And then the third, again the fiber is aligned with x axis. So we can see that with x axis, if we take the reference of x axis to 0 degree, fiber is making 0 degree with the first one. If you are taking it 1, then if we are considering it 2, so then it is making 90 degree axis with the x axis. The fiber is making 90 degree, and then again it is making with the x axis 0 degree in the third. So 0, 90, 0, we can see that the orientation of the fibers with the reference axis is this 0, 90 degree and 0 degree. So why we orient in different directions, or 0, 90, 0, it may be 0, 45 degree, 0 degree, or any another combinations or orientations may take place. That depends upon the requirement, that what we want as a structural engineer, and where you have to use the materials. So these are the requirements that we use. So now analysis of the laminated composite structures. So when we have to analyze this, that the strengths or stresses, strains, displacements. So for that we required the knowledge of anisotropic elasticity equations. Then the second, the structural theories, and the third is the analytical and computational methods. So for the study of laminated composite structures or analysis, we have to have the knowledge of these three things. First one is the anisotropic elasticity equations, then the second is the structural theories, and third, analytical and computational methods. So we will see one by one of all these three. So let's see. First, anisotropic elasticity equations. So in that, first one is the kinematics. So we know that kinematics is the displacement based formula. So we know that the three prime displacements are along the x-axis, which is u of xyz, so which is a function of x axis, y axis, and z axis. And the second is v, which is the displacement in the y directions, and third is w, so uvw, so w would be the displacements along the z direction, so which is also a function of x, y, and z coordinates. And then the kinetics, which is a force based, that we require the force or the stresses, the stress along x-axis or stress along y-axis or shear stresses, that are the kinetics. And the thermodynamics, we know that it is the energy based criteria, that the strain energy, which is a function of the strains or stresses. So when we have to derive the stresses, so we can have stresses, we can find with the partial differentiation of the strain energy with respect to a strain gives the stresses, or vice versa. If you want the strain, so partial derivative of the strain energy with respect to stresses gives the strains. So from thermodynamics principle, we get the stresses and strains from the strain energy principle. And then the constitutive equations. So constitutive equations is the material properties which which helps get the relations of the stresses with the strain. Stress is a kinetics or force-based quantities, and strain is a displacement-based quantities or kinematics. So when stresses and strains are having a relation with the help of constitutive equations or the material properties. Then the second knowledge we required is the structural theories. What are the structural theories for the laminated composite plates? The first one is the equivalent single layer theories, that we just use the single layer or a single plate and we find the displacements and all for a single plate only, or two-dimensional theories. Then the second one is the three-dimensional elasticity theories, that we use the three-dimensional elasticity concepts to study. Then the multiple model methods, where we use the combination of the single layer and three-dimensional elasticity theories, or 2D and 3D theories, to just ease it. And the third was the analytical and the computational methods are required, the tools to just find the various results. So the first one is the analytical approach for the three-dimensional mainly, that state space approach. Then the Pagano's method, series solution, and perturbation methods. These are the analytical approach to find the required stresses or displacements. And then the second one is the numerical approach. So the methods for the numerical approach, we can see the differential quadrature methods or generalized differential quadrature, finite element methods, isogeometric analysis, mesh test, local Petrov-Gularkin method, moving Kriging mesh free method, and many more methods are there for the numerical approach to study these things. So anisotropic elasticity equations, we will see a little background for the anisotropic elasticity. So generalized Hooke's law, what it gives, it is 81 elastic constants. What we know, we can see the stresses as sigma ij, which is a second order tensor, and Eij, Kl, and epsilon Kl. So it is a stress, or we can say Cauchy stress tensor and strain tensor. So these stresses are related with the strains with the help of constitutive equations or constitutive relations, which is the material properties. And it is fourth order tensor, Eij, Kl. So the first two, Ij, is related with the stresses, and last two, Kl, is the related with strain tensor. So it is a fourth order tensor. First Ij is the stress based tensor, and the second Kl is the strain based tensor. So it is fourth order tensor. So we know that the stresses is so stress is sigma xx, sigma xy, sigma yx, sigma yy, sigma xz, sigma zx, sigma yz, sigma zy, and sigma zz. So we can say that there are 9 stress tensors. 9 stress tensor at any point. And similarly, 9 stress tensor, strain tensor. So sigma ij at a point is 9, and epsilon I Kl at a point is 9. So when we have the tensor product for sigma ij and Kl, then we will get 9 by 9 is 81. So we get 81 elastic constants. Okay, so 81 elastic constants are there for 9 by 9 stress and strain tensor. Further, what we know that due to the stress, when we find the stress symmetry with the help of the moments, so that reduce the 9 stress tensor with 6 stress tensor, and similarly with 9 strain tensor with 6 strain tensor. So strain is reduced with its geometry, whereas stress is reduced with its moment about the axis. So symmetry due to strain that reduce the overall this 81 elastic constants to 54 elastic constants, and then due to stress, symmetry due to stress, then it also reduced further from 54 to 36. And then due to the thermodynamic consideration, means that we know the relation that the stress tensor, if we want to find, then we have the partial derivative of the strain energy with respect to strain, or so this strain energy is a function of strain, so we get here sigma ia with respect to that. Similarly, if we find the strain and all, so there with respect to this relation, further it reduced to 21 elastic constants. So these are the symmetry due to strain, stress and thermodynamic consideration. So these are reduced to this much, 21 elastic constants. Then we use the material symmetry properties. That's one plane of material symmetry, then it reduced to 21, which we call monoclinic. Basically this 21 is called the triclinic, more general anisotropic one. And then further the material symmetry we apply with one plane of symmetry, then it is reduced to monoclinic. 3 mutually orthogonal plane of symmetry, then it is orthotropic, means 9 elastic constants, 3 different, in all 3 directions different material properties are there, so 9 elastic constants are required for it. Then further material symmetry, if you want that in one plane same properties and different properties in the direction normal to this plane, so then further it reduced to 5, transversely isotropy. And material properties independent of the direction, if it do not changes with the change in the direction, material properties remain same, then it is called the isotropic, and then only 2 elastic constants are required. So now homogeneous and heterogeneous. So a material body is said to be homogeneous if the material properties is same throughout the volume of the body, that is independent of the position. Volume here means what it indicates, the volume here indicates the coordinates, that x, y, z. So if suppose we say it is a single plate, okay, and at any position, suppose this is coordinate here x, y and z coordinate. Suppose x, this is y and this is z. So if it take any coordinate x, y, z at any point A, then at another point, suppose this point, it would be, it is x1, y1, z1, then here it would be x2, y2, z2. If the material properties are same and it is independent of the coordinate, then we say that it is homogeneous, means same throughout the volume. Material properties is same. But if it changes as the coordinate changes, the properties here is different and here is different, then it would not be homogeneous. So then it would call the heterogeneous materials, which are the function of the position. Then it would become the function of the position. So a structure composed of several uniform thickness of layers. So when we use different lamina, so a plate, composite plate is made up of different lamina. So here it is one lamina, two lamina, third lamina. So each lamina is homogeneous in its own. Homogeneous. Lamina is homogeneous. This is homogeneous. But if we take the laminate as a whole plate, then the properties will change here. Up to this property, this was homogeneous, means it was independent of the coordinate, the material properties are same. But now if we just reach here and then here, so here the material properties will just change from this position to this position. Similarly, this position. So we can see that in the z direction, the properties where the interface or the changes of the lamina takes place, then at that position it becomes heterogeneous. So here a structure composed of several uniform thickness layers of different materials stacked on top of each other and bonded to each other is an example of heterogeneous through the thickness direction. It is heterogeneous in the thickness direction. It may be same along the x and y plane, but in the z direction it is heterogeneous. So these are the basics to understand the homogeneous and heterogeneous properties. So the kinematic relations and the mechanical and thermodynamic principles are applicable to any continuum irrespective of its physical constitution. And the equations characterizing the individual material and its reaction to applied loads are called the constitutive equations. So the generalized Hooke's law we have just seen. The most general linear relationships that connect stress to a strain is known as the generalized Hooke's law and can be expressed mathematically as sigma ij is equals to Eijkl into epsilon kl, where Eijkl is the material properties or the constitutive relations or equations. Sigma ij is the stress tensor and epsilon kl is the strain tensor. So where Eijkl is a fourth order tensor. The elements of Eijkl are known as the elastic constants. So the elements of Eijkl are known as the elastic constants. First two subscripts on the elastic constants correspond to those of the stress, this Eij, and then Kl corresponds to the strain. So whereas last two subscripts correspond to the strains. So hence each stress component is related to all 9 components of the strain tensor, and there are 81 elastic constants defining the tensor Eijkl. This tensor exhibits certain symmetry properties that reduce the total number of independent components to 21 for a material that does not have any excess of symmetry. Such a material is called allotropy or an isotropic material. So up to 21 we don't use any material symmetry of the properties. So only stress symmetry, strain symmetry, and the thermodynamics principle we have used, and then it reduced from 81 to 21 elastic constants, which is called the anisotropic or allotropic materials. Then we have used the material plane of symmetry. So when elastic material parameters at a point have the same values for every pair of coordinate systems that are mirror images of each other in a certain plane, that plane is called material plane of symmetry. So the positional dependence of a material properties is called the inhomogeneity of the material. So the monoclinic, which is having 13 elastic constants, the monoclinic materials are the ones whose elastic coefficients at a point have the same value for every pair of the coordinate systems, which are mirror images of each other with respect to a plane. It has 13 independent material parameters or elastic constants. Note that monoclinic materials exhibit shear extension coupling, means shear and extension means normal stresses sigma xx, sigma yy, and sigma zz, and the shear force means sigma in plane shear we can consider sigma xy. So these are coupled. So stress, shear stress and the normal stress are coupled or related to each other. We can see from the equations. So here we can see sigma 1, which is the normal stress along x-axis or in the fiber direction, and sigma 2, sigma 3, sigma 4, sigma 5, sigma 6, where sigma 4 and sigma 5 are the out of plane or transverse shear stresses, and sigma 6 is the in plane shear stress. So the relation here we can see sigma 1 is related with C11 epsilon 1 plus C12 epsilon 2 plus C13 epsilon 3. So we can here show you that from this equation what we can say C11 epsilon 1 plus C12 epsilon 2 plus C13 epsilon 3 plus this 0 into epsilon from 0, 0 into epsilon 5, 0 plus, so 0 plus 0 plus C16 epsilon 6. So this normal stress sigma 1 is related with the normal strain epsilon 1, normal strain epsilon 2 direction, normal strain epsilon 3 in the transverse direction, and the epsilon 6 which is in plane shear stress, shear strain. So these are the normal, which is we can see if you make a three-dimensional. So sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, and then it would be sigma 1, 2. Similarly, it would be sigma 3, 1, and so on, or 1, 3. So these sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 are the normal stresses, and sigma 1, 2, sigma 3, 1 or 1, 3, these are the shear stresses. So here we can see epsilon 6, which is a strain in the plane. We can see this is the, if we consider this strain as stresses corresponding to this would be a strain epsilon 6, then we say that the normal strains and the shear strains are both are there with the sigma 1. So we can see that stretching and which we say here with that shear extensional coupling. So stretching or extension which is due to the normal loads and shear. So both are coupled. So both are related. This normal stress consists of both normal strain and the shear strain. So therefore we are telling that the monoclinic materials are one where the shear and extensional coupling can be seen. Now we will see the orthotropic materials. So fiber composites are among the class of materials called the orthotropic materials. So when we study this fiber composites, so we are very lucky that it lies in the orthotropic materials, because monoclinic materials are having 13 elastic constants where the shear and extensional coupling was there, but in the fiber composites, as we know that it is among the class of the orthotropic materials, and orthotropic materials are having 9 elastic constants, so whose behavior lies between isotropic and that of anisotropic materials. So sometimes it may behave as a isotropic and sometimes may be anisotropic. It depends upon the orientation of the lamina, that how the lamina is oriented. Okay. So in anisotropic materials, we know that the uniaxial tension will produce change in length as well as angles. So in general, what we know that for isotropic materials, if we apply the isotropic materials, if we apply the normal loads, then it will extend, only the stretching would take place. But or if we apply the shear stress, then the shear deformation will take place. If shear stresses would be applied here, then the shear deformation would take place. No extension would be there. So length would not change, but only the orientation of this would take place. But in anisotropic material, if we apply any normal loads, then there would be the change in both the length, means the extensional, as well as the shear strain would take place. So if you apply the normal loads, then the strain, means shear strain would take place, angle changes would take place, as well as the length of the property. And similarly, if the shear stresses would be applied, then also the length would change as well as the angle would change. So in anisotropic materials, uniaxial tension will produce change in length as well as angle. Similarly, pure shear also produces change in length and angles for the anisotropic materials. So when the direction of the applied load is changed in orthotropic materials, the material response does not change quantitatively, but changes quantitatively. So what does it mean? That if in one direction, if you applied the load, if you applied the load in the sigma 1 direction, and if you applied the load in sigma 2 direction, then the change in the length would be different for both sigma 1 and sigma 2, because we know that this would be the directional properties, depend upon the directions. So the material properties would be different in different direction. So that is, equal loads applied in different direction produces unequal changes in length and angles. In other words, the deformation behavior of anisotropic materials is direction dependent. So deformation response of an orthotropic material in general is similar to that of anisotropic material. It is direction dependent, and normal stresses and shear stresses alike give rise to normal strains as well as shear strains. However, in special cases, so there are some special cases when the loads are applied in some specific directions, the material response is similar to that of isotropic materials. Then it would behave as an isotropic materials. In that, the normal stresses produce the normal strains only, and the shear stresses would produce only the shear strains. These directions with a special behavior are the axis of symmetry of the material. So in a unidirectional composite, longitudinal and transverse directions are the axis of symmetry. A general three-dimensional orthotropic material has three mutually perpendicular axes of symmetry. So a general three-dimensional orthotropic material has a three mutually perpendicular axis of symmetry. A unidirectional composite is an orthotropic material but has more than three axes of symmetry, the longitudinal direction and all directions perpendicular to it. So we can see here, you can understand, it is the direction 1, it is the direction 2, and it is the direction 3. Okay. So what it is stating a unidirectional composite is an orthotropic material but has more than three axes of symmetry. Before that, a general three-dimensional orthotropic. So if you make the three-dimensional orthotropic plates, so 1, 2, 3, these all three directions will have different properties. So we say that this is orthotropic, general orthotropic materials, where 9 elastic constants would be there. Elastic constants. Okay, because all three directions, each directions will have their own material properties. So different directions, different material properties would be there. So if we say that in one direction E1 would be there, G12, and similarly G13, or E2 would be having E2 and all, and similarly E3. So this would have its own material properties in each direction. So nu12, nu21, nu13, and so on. So all the material properties, then it would have 9 elastic constants. But further it states that a unidirectional composite is an orthotropic material but has more than three axes of symmetry. That the material properties would be the longitudinal direction and all directions perpendicular to it. So suppose this is the one direction and this is the two direction and this is the third direction. So the properties in one direction, E1 and all, and another three direction and two direction would be same. So we can see that E2 is equals to E3. Okay, and similarly more other relations would be there. So the further elastic constants would get reduced because it is stating that the unidirectional composite is an orthotropic material but has more than three axes of symmetry, the longitudinal direction in all directions perpendicular to it. So only the longitudinal directions would be the one, and another direction, whether it is perpendicular to one in this in plane or out of plane, means third plane, that material properties would be same in that. So E2 would be equals to E3 and so on. So therefore we can say that the elastic constant would further reduce, and those reduced would be the 5 elastic constants or 7 elastic constants for the 3D. Now, when the reference axis in an analysis coincides with the lamina axis, so lamina axis and the reference axis, if it coincides, the lamina is called usually the specially orthotropic lamina. What it means? If it is a lamina, generally it is oriented in this manner. Okay, one direction and it would be two direction. And suppose if a laminate is there, and this is the axis of the laminate x-axis, and this is the axis of laminate y-axis, and we can see that this 1 and this is 2. So let's see first plate 1. So plate 1, the fibers are oriented in axis, okay, in this direction. So we can see that the fiber axis and axis of the laminate X is in the same direction. Similarly, it was for lamina 1. Now we will see for the lamina 2. This is the orientation of the fiber. So fibers are oriented here in this direction, y-axis. So the fibers are oriented. So what it is stating, when reference axis in the analysis coincides with the lamina axis. So reference axis are x-axis and y-axis, and the fiber axis are, this is the one axis and this is the fiber axis two axis. So when fiber axis are also coinciding with the reference axis or the laminate axis, then the lamina is usually called the specially orthotropic lamina. It is called the specially orthotropic lamina. The elastic constants do not change when the direction of the axis perpendicular to the plane of symmetry is reversed. The number of elastic constants will reduce when the number of planes of symmetry increases. So generally orthotropic lamina, when the reference axes are different from the lamina axis of symmetry, the lamina is called a generally orthotropic lamina. So when the lamina axes are different, so we can see this is the fiber axis 1 and perpendicular to is 2. So when the laminate is formed in such a way that the direction of the lamina axis is in this. So then we can see that the reference axis is x-axis and this is the reference axis is y-axis. So this does not coincide, the axis of the lamina does not coincide, of the material does not coincide with the reference axis. So therefore, then it is called the generally orthotropic lamina. So when three mutually orthogonal planes of material symmetry exist, the number of elastic constants is reduced to 9. So the 9 independent material coefficients for an orthotropic material are E1, E2, E3, G23, G13, G12, mu12, mu13, and mu23. So we can see the relations, constitutive relations, that the stresses are related with the strengths with the help of the constitutive equations. So these are the elastic constants: C11, C12, C13, C12, C22, C23, C13, C23, C33, C44, C55, and C66. So here we can see this is the normal stress, sigma 11 epsilon 1 plus sigma 12 epsilon 2 plus sigma 13 epsilon 3. So the normal stress are related with the normal strains. Normal strains. Yes. So no shear strains are there with this relation. So we can see that it is uncoupled with the shear one. And here sigma 4 is related to C44 epsilon 4. So shear stress is also uncoupled with the normal stresses. Okay. But in the monoclinic materials, we have seen that these normal stresses were also aligned with the shear strains. So therefore, shear extensional coupling was there. And these C11, C12 elastic constants are related with the Poisson's ratio and the elastic constant Young's modulus. So C11 is 1 minus mu23 upon E2 E3 into delta. Similarly, C13 is this relation, and these all relations are shown here. So in this lecture, we have ended up to this